Hello and welcome to the Humans of Growth podcast, where we talk about the stories and strategies behind business growth and development. I'm your host, Aly Hathcock, and in this conversation, we unpack the biggest misconceptions CEOs have about marketing strategy, why teams still throw spaghetti at the wall, and how data, trust, and transparency can radically transform the way that you make decisions as a leader. That being said, let's dive into the episode. So Darren Magarro is the CEO at the DSM Group. The DSM Group is a marketing agency that helps teams build and execute data-driven marketing strategies that elevate their brand. Darren, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Aly. Thanks for having me.
So Darren, I introduced the professional side of you, but in a sentence or two, who are you as a human and what's bringing you joy right now?
Just got done. I have a lot of joy with the other side of my business, which is why I started it almost 19 years ago. Just got done, coaching my son over 6 years for football, and he just started his freshman year with football. So my kids, obviously my family, I started this to be able to have a good work-life balance, and that's kind of what brings me a lot of joy outside of work.
Cool. So here's my question for you. What football teams do you cheer for or outside of high school football?
This is a tough one today. So I'm a Green Bay Packer fan. I live in New Jersey, but I'm a Green Bay Packer fan. Got a piggy bank when I was a kid. And my college team is unfortunately this year Penn State. It's been a rough go.
Okay.
Penn State. My son actually was at the two, best, worst games of the year. He was at the Indiana game last weekend, and we went to the Oregon game together, and they were heartbreakers. But those are my two big football teams in college and the NFL.
Okay, I love it. So you've built DSM over over 2 decades now. What made you decide to start it, and what are some of the biggest lessons that you've learned?
Oh boy. Well, I started it because I felt like I could do it better than what I was seeing. So there's two parts to that story. One, I started my career at a big agency in Manhattan, working on big accounts, Toyota, Lexus, Boston Bean, a Boston Beer, Jim Beam, Puma, things like that. I got married in 2005, and when I did that, I moved to another agency here in New Jersey, and I just felt like there was a better way to do it. And, with my wife, I had a tremendous opportunity. She has a family business that's very, very old. They're like 120 years old. So her and I had a conversation, and she's like, give it a year and see how it goes. And here we are. It'll be 19 years on February 7th. And, we've grown to become, I think 16, 17 people now. And, it's been a really big journey. The big lesson that I've learned over the course of those 18 plus years really involves patience. I'm not a real patient person. I'm an entrepreneur and an athlete by my past experience. So having patience was never like a strong suit. And I've learned that you're not going to win every battle. You have to learn how to navigate that. And the other part about it is if you do fail, like the sun's going to rise the next day. And that's, when I first started, I felt like I was going to win every battle. That was the attitude I took. I was very unrelenting, and I've learned patience over the course of the last almost 20 years. And I think that served me well, both I think in work and at home. Having kids, is a lesson in patience. So I think it's served me well. I don't always get it right. I'm not perfect, but it's definitely been a journey for sure.
I think that being a business owner, being a CEO, it forces you to slow down a little bit and be patient. It's one of the things I've learned, because especially as you work with clients, I want to go at the speed of light, and they don't necessarily follow at that same pacing.
Yeah. And the other thing about it too is that over the last 10, 12 years, we've moved into the digital side predominantly, and it's about the data. And when you're looking at data, you could be as quick or as slow as you want to be, or, you know, as patient or impatient as you want to be. So I think there's value to that as well. Making decisions in real time, but having an understanding of what's happening in the background in order to make the best decision, both for DSM and for your clients. So, yeah.
So you talk a lot about not throwing spaghetti at the wall. When it comes to marketing strategy, what is the biggest misconception that founders and CEOs that you've worked with have when it comes to strategy?
That everything is going to work. It doesn't always work. You know, we kind of go into a relationship and we say, like, look, if you're batting 300, you know, if you're into baseball, you're batting 300, you're a Hall of Famer. And so it's about laying out a strategy, what we think might work or what you think might work. Usually it doesn't. So let's lay out the strategy. Let's give it time. Let's see what happens and let the data tell the story. And if the data supports what you're saying, you know, then we'll double down on that. But a lot of times we'll ABC test something, and the one that we think or the one that they think is going to be the home run it's the worst out of the data set. And so you have to be, you know, you have to be mindful of that, and you have to be willing and open, and you have to have a level of trust. I think that's really important with your clients that you build up. You know, one of the biggest things for me, our first client that moved with me from my agency, from my previous agency, when I started this, you know, we started with one client. They're still our client, and he's probably one of my best friends in the world. And I mean, my wife and I had dinner with him and his wife 2 weekends ago. So, you know, that to me is the most important part. Like, as you build trust, it's a really awesome thing to be able to have those relationships where that takes precedence over everything. And, you know, when you're laying out the strategy, it might not be the one that works, or it might partly work, or it might not work at all. But to be able to have the patience to say, okay, like, this is how we're going to pivot, and for them to trust you and your team for that is amazing.
Yeah, and I think that's something that a lot of CEOs don't realize, is that things may not work right away, and things may not work at all. And going back to what you said earlier, how do you have patience with the strategy to let it run for a week, a month, however long it has to run before you can say yes, no, while also A/B testing different variations? So when you walk into a company and they've just signed with you, how do you go about diagnosing their marketing, what's working, what's not, based upon the data? Especially when every company is unique, the data is going to be different for everybody. And if they've already been running some level of A/B testing, the variation B may only work 3%, 5% better than variation A. So it's hard to statistically tell.
We usually do a lot of legwork on the front end before ever putting a proposal down. So we have a pretty awesome setup between my vice president of strategy and vice president of accounts when we're doing our lead up into a proposal. We do an intro meeting. That's kind of like the litmus test. Like, we try not to work with jerks. Like, we try not to. So that's with me. That's like a 30-minute call. And then from there, we do what's called like an hour-long discovery call. And so we ask a lot of in-depth questions that really get the potential client to think about the outcomes. And a lot of times, like, they haven't even thought about these things. You know, what separates, because every entrepreneur thinks their company is like the best thing since sliced bread. So, you know, you're asking questions like, what separates you from your competition? They're like, there's nothing that's separate. We're the best. And then you get into it and you're like, oh, wow, like, you don't have any analytics set up. Like, this is all, you know, firsthand perception of what the company is. So we do a lot of legwork. We try to ask really hard questions. We try to get them to see both sides of, like, the coin with regards to your company has strengths, but there are other businesses out there in your set that also have strengths and weaknesses just like yours. So we try to get them to be mindful of that, but that's kind of where we lead in. We build a lot of trust before we ever get to a proposal. So when we do put a proposal in front of somebody, it's kind of like, okay, like maybe the number's a little off, or maybe it needs to come down or go up, but there's no question about what what the need is, or we've got them thinking about their business, or like we know, we get it a lot. Some people might not be able to afford us, but they love, I had lunch with two potential clients that are coming on next year. They couldn't afford us this year, but it's about keeping up the relationship. And so I had lunch with two guys that own a construction business on Monday. I had a lunch with a woman who's a lawyer yesterday, who had a very niche practice. They're not ready to go right now, but it's about keeping up the relationships and knowing like what they need. And that's what we try to do on the front end before we ever get to talking about money.
So with that, you said that your secret sauce earlier before we started recording was transparency and data. So what does that look like in practice?
Just what it says. Owning a mistake. You're not always going to be right about everything. Transparency in terms of hours. Like, we have a system that we use that where we send the hours out that we're working on. We're mostly retainer based. So we send hours out between the creative team, the account team, the digital team, whatever it is, on a weekly basis. Owning up to your mistakes. If you make one, like, that's the whole part about the relationship and building the trust over years. A lot of our clients we've had for longer than 5, 6, 7 years. We have one that's, like I said, the first one that ever started with me when it was just me. So, I think that's important. It's about supporting, if you're going to put out a strategy, support it with data that you've either gotten or not gotten, and then, build. It's about building that relationship.
Oh, you're breaking up on me.
Visible if you make a mistake. It's about being like upfront and honest and owning it, and because we're human. Like, we're in the marketing business. Not everything is going to turn out right all the time. That's just not the way it is.
Yeah. Do you have any stories to share with that?
Dozens of stories to share. It's like I said, I think it's more about the relationship.
Hey guys, real quick, this episode is sponsored by Parison Network. Parison Network is a matchmaking service that connects businesses to marketing agencies that will actually get you results. There's over 50,000 agencies in the United States alone, and picking the right one can feel, well, pretty impossible. Parison Network simplifies the entire process by doing all of the vetting for you. From the initial agency search to interviewing and vetting the top marketing agencies to getting proposals and helping you with the discovery call, Parison Network does it all. This way, you end up partnering with a marketing agency that actually delivers outcomes, not empty promises. If you're ready to stop wasting money on marketing that just doesn't work, visit ParisonNetwork.com and get your free agency search started today. That's ParisonNetwork.com, PERISSON network.com.
Going back in time, we've had clients that have come, that have gone. Even the clients that have left the agency for whatever reason, whether it be budget or they got sold or, they've got to have a new marketing firm, whatever. We actually have one client that we worked with twice. They were a bank. They came on. We worked with them for like 3 years, about 10, 12 years ago. They left us for another agency and ended up coming back, and we worked with them the last 4 years. So, even when we're not the agency of record or whatever it is, it's about making you keep up the relationship. It's about being there if they're ever in need, if they ever, it's not all about the money. It's not all I guess the best way to say it, it's not all transaction. Like, it's not all about the transaction. Obviously, the monetary part is important, but it's about building a relationship. Like, we're not working with Fortune 500 companies with 18 layers of people. We're working with usually like small marketing teams, a one-person marketing director. Even at our national clients, you're dealing with small teams.
So when it comes to data, how do you go about separating the vanity metrics that are easy to look at, that are easy to show fast wins, versus profit driving metrics?
Well, the majority of the clients that we work with, we really don't have any vanity metrics.
Okay.
It's not all about likes or, clicks or whatever. Um, Almost every client that we have is driven by some sort of ROI, ROAS, like there's tangible results that are attached to it. So we don't have the luxury of being like, hey, we're a branding agency. Like
Uh-huh.
that's not the way it works for us. So I would say it hardly ever happens.
Okay. So let's say you have a new client, they've never had visibility into their numbers. Where do you start with that, with creating that visibility?
Well, every client that we have has a dashboard that we build for them with
Okay.
whatever the KPIs are. So they have access to that. We have a kickoff meeting and we build that based on what the metrics are for success. And they have access to that. They could just refresh it over their morning coffee when they're having it, and they could see it every day if they wanted to.
Okay. So how do you go about balancing creative instincts when it comes to building campaigns with the data and trusting intuition when you in the process?
So I come from the data side of the business. That's
Okay.
why I've hired a wonderful three-person creative team. So Jess, Matt, and Sierra are amazing at what they do.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm at a place in my career now where I don't get involved in any of that.
Okay.
I let the pros do what they do. I think it's really important on all sides of the business. As we've grown, we've built three really solid teams with directors and VPs that are under the C-suite of our agency, and we kind of take a hands-off approach. We let them do their work and make decisions. Other than Jess, who was hired this year, who's our creative director, Meredith and Dan have been with the company, our VP of accounts and our VP of strategy. They've been with the agency for 8 years. So we've all worked a lot together and been able to, garner a trust between us that we kind of know what they're thinking before they think it, I guess.
Yeah. So you've been leading DSM through almost 20 years of marketing, and then you were in marketing before that. So you've seen a lot that has come and go over the past 2 decades. What have you seen that stayed the same? What have you seen that's changed in terms of buyer psychology, marketing, and marketing strategy more than generalized tactics?
Well, that was a really nice way to say I'm old. Thank you.
Sorry.
I'm kidding. I think the way the psychology of buyers works now is you have to be like there. There's not one touch point anymore. It's whether it's on social or whether it's on, even, with AI now, like our last 2 or 3 clients have come in through ChatGPT. They haven't come in through Google or, SEO. It's been all about GEO and how that is transitioning the business. I don't know. I think that buyer psychology is way more diverse now. I think the way it plays out is very, it's a longer cycle and it's built on trust. I think you have to be there, whether you're a marketing agency or whether you're, we're vertical agnostic. So we have clients that are in the roofing business, or the men's clothing business. I think it's built around being there, being present. So when they're ready to make a decision, you're top of mind. And they know that you're the best answer to their question. Or you have the best product to serve their needs. I'm a firm believer in that. And that Dan, our VP of strategy, we're in lockstep there. Like, that's the way he thinks too.
Yeah, I think something that I've seen over the past couple year, 15, 20 years that I've been in marketing is back in the 90s, early 2000s, there was a shortage of information because the internet didn't exist in its current form. And so you had salesmen who could walk in the door and sell you on God knows what. And then like what you said, now it's about we have a shortage of trust because we have all the information now. It's about who do we trust with it.
Yep.
And I think that goes back to what you were saying earlier. This is how important relationships are. So even if they're not ready to buy from you now, how are you still engaging in that relationship? Because people can smell, especially with larger businesses, they can smell a salesperson 100 miles away.
Yep. Yeah. And even for us, like I said, we have, the two potential clients that that I had lunch with. Like, it's not about, we're not doing business with them, but it's about maintaining that trust, building that relationship. When we were over lunch, I was still answering questions about marketing. One of them is actually working with another firm right now. And I was like, yeah, I don't know if this is the best idea, or why don't you take this idea back to them and say, like, maybe it's better to think about it this way, or, one of the big things too, it's about listening. We have to practice what we preach, and we tell our leads before we work with them, like, we're not yes people. We're not going to say yes to everything you want to do and think it's like the best idea since sliced bread. And on the other side of it, if there's something you're adamant about in your business, because ultimately your business better than we do, then you have to be adamant about that. And there will be a point where we'll come to a middle ground, but that's about the learning of actually working together. So that's really, really important.
So looking back again over your career, you've worked with a lot of different companies. It sounds like you have been, for many companies, maybe the first agency that they've worked with to some degree. What is one lesson you wish every CEO knew before hiring their first marketing agency?
Oh, trust. I think it's really, really important. Not everything is going to go right. As an entrepreneur, I think that if you have enough experience, or as you get enough battle scars, I think you understand that. And so building a trust that you can work with, obviously right now we're going through like renewal season with our existing clients, because the majority of our deals are calendar year deals. And so you just try to build a trust, build an understanding of how they go about doing things, and knowing that they have a vested interest in your business as well. And that they're willing to ask tough questions, that they're willing to say no to you. Yes, agencies are not, I think they give a lot of us in this industry a bad name. There's a lot of churn and burn. We're not about that. And so, in my opinion, that's where I think if you're looking for a first agency, I think that's where you really need to, like, a lot of us can do a lot of the same stuff. The software and the stuff to do the job is out there. It's not rocket science at the end of the day. It's about the relationship and building that trust over time. And you could take the principles of any good relationship with your spouse, with your kids. Like, it's about trust. You need to know that they trust you, and they, and vice versa. I think that's the key to success.
Yeah, and I think going back to what you said, you don't want an agency that's going to be your yes man. If your agency never pushes back on you ever, you probably have a problem, and the problem's you.
Yeah, and we've lost clients that way, and it stinks with some big clients that way. But when you do it, like, there's an understanding of, like, okay, if you're not going to take the suggestions, like, why'd you hire us? Just do it yourself.
100%. Darren, if there was one question you wish I had asked you, what would it be?
Oh boy. What's my favorite Thanksgiving Day eating thing? I'm assuming
I wouldn't.
I'm going to have to answer that too, right?
You are absolutely going to have to answer it, and I expect it to be weird.
No, it's actually not weird. It's such a Thanksgiving Day staple. It's not turkey. I mean, I love turkey, obviously, but it's stuffing. Like, who doesn't love stuffing? How could you not love stuffing? If you're
I don't love. I hate. I think it's the most disgusting thing in the world.
Right. It's
Oh
seasoned
my,
bread covered in gravy. It's so good.
I don't like. Oh God, I can't stand gravy either. I know. I
What?
know. Listen. I don't go anywhere for Thanksgiving anymore. I can't. I like deviled eggs and ham. The rest, I don't really care about.
I've never had deviled eggs or ham on Thanksgiving.
What?
Where do you live?
The South? I'm in Nashville. My family's in Atlanta.
Okay.
You've never had ham and deviled eggs for with Thanksgiving?
Maybe deviled eggs. I shouldn't say that. Maybe
You have had devil. Oh, come
no, I've had
on.
deviled eggs. I've just never had them on Thanksgiving. I didn't know that was like a Thanksgiving staple in the South.
Um, Maybe that's just the one thing my mom knows how to make, and it's easy.
Okay.
We'll just
I
leave.
mean,
We'll leave it at. It could just be that because we used to have to go to 2 or 3 Thanksgivings all in one day. It's
okay.
easy to slice the
Yeah.
dice. Okay.
I mean, I love stuffing. I love stuffing. That's
Okay.
my jam.
Cool.
We're in the
Well,
season. I don't know. That
we're
that
in
would be
the
my question. 'Tis the season, Thanksgiving season.
Okay. Darren, thank you so much for coming on the show today. If people want to connect with you further, what's the best way for them to find you?
Best way to find us is through our website, the dsmgroup.com. THE, D as in dog, S as in Sam, M as in Mary group. I'm also on social. I'm on LinkedIn. Our agency, myself and Dan at our agency, do a lot of. We just did a post today. A lot of marketing stuff, a lot of leadership stuff. So find us on LinkedIn, on Instagram, on Facebook, on X. And if you're ever up in northern Bergen County, New Jersey, we're located. Well, we're remote, but we're located up in Franklin Lakes, New Jersey. So if you're
Okay.
ever around Manhattan, that would be the best way to find us.
Awesome. For everyone tuning in today, thank you so much for joining, and we will catch you on the next episode of Humans of Growth.